have on Facebook right now. Peter Jewett and Scott. How do I pronounce your last name officially?
Kluzewski. Polish last name works too.
Yeah. I know how to spell it, but I can't. I was gonna call you Klickzewski, so I guess.
I get that. I get that all the time, so that would have been acceptable as well.
Sure. So we gotta kick this thing off officially. So without further ado, we're gonna debut our jingle.
Your website could be better, let's make it right. Together with Bytes.
All right.
It's amazing.
I guess, yeah, it was maybe a little underwhelming, but we did it. We got a jingle now. Now we just need to get some text on the screen and stuff. Maybe some logos flying around.
Yep.
All right. So today we're talking about Google Analytics. Scott, you've been on this show before. You're our senior digital marketing strategist. So why don't you tell us what's Google Analytics? What's Google Search Console? Why do they matter?
Yeah. So we in the digital marketing department, I would say Google Analytics is probably our most widely used platform on a day-to-day basis. We have a couple other platforms that we use, our reporting system, SEMrush, Google Tag Manager, but I would say everybody on the DM team is definitely experts at Google Analytics. And basically it's a free tool by Google. It's been around for almost probably 15 to 20 years now. And it basically allows you to put 2 easy scripts on your website, which we'll kind of get into, and then track pretty much data on every page on your website. How many sessions you're getting, where the users are coming from, their demographic information, age, gender, how long they're spending on each page. And at the end of the day, it's a free tool, pretty easy to set up, and pretty much any website that we work with, we either place it on the website, and it's kind of a free way to collect data that really every website should be utilizing.
Cool. And how about Google Search Console? What's that?
Yeah, Google Search Console used to be called Google Webmaster Tools. Google actually just rolled out a whole new interface to it within the last year. I think I want to say around this time last year, in the summer of last year. And it's basically a place for webmasters to go, those who manage websites, to kind of get a little bit more data on the ins and outs of the more technical aspects of a website, where you can kind of control, see the queries that are driving searches to your website through organic search results. You can kind of see link errors, who's linking to your website. You can control the backlinks. If there's any spammy backlinks coming in your website, you can disavow those. They kind of go hand in hand, and usually when we take on a new client, if one or the other isn't set up, we will set up both and link them together, which I'll kind of go into as well.
Yeah, Google Analytics is awesome because it's been around. It's kind of the established authority. So if you want to use other tools, we'd probably recommend using other tools in addition to Google Analytics.
Right.
It's just a great thing to have for the lifetime of your website, to just be able to track stats. We especially like to make sure we have it when we're relaunching a website or making a big change. That way, as long as we can record that baseline data before something was done, we can have the apples to apples comparison. So because it's the biggest tool on the market, most widely used, it's definitely something you should get on your website. Like Scott said, it's free. It really only takes about 10 minutes to set up and start collecting data. Maybe an hour if you're just learning, but yeah, it's super easy to install, and you can get a ton of really good actionable data. And with the website, data is everything, because if you're not looking at the data, you're just kind of, I guess, relying on your feelings and what you think your website's doing. So,
yeah.
Why don't you pull up our install, I guess, for Bytes? or except for web, and we can
Yep.
run through it.
Yeah, so we have up on my screen here. We'll actually, I might have to share my screen. That would probably help.
Yeah, you got to present there in Hangouts.
Yep. Yeah, so we have the Bytes.co, and this is actually our old, go to all website data here. So, and I'll kind of show how we'll get those scripts on the website to get Google Analytics enabled here. But this is kind of, the main screen of Google Analytics. Once you come in, there's all these kind of 5 key areas of data within Google Analytics, which we'll kind of go over tomorrow. I think we're taking another stab at going a little bit deeper into Google Analytics tomorrow.
Hey, can you zoom this up a little bit?
Yep. Yeah, so today will kind of be the setup. Tomorrow we can kind of discuss reporting and goal tracking and things like that. But basically what it allows you to do, and the report that I would say that I kind of use the most for reporting purposes here, under acquisition, all traffic, source medium, we can actually see the mediums, or what Google refers to as mediums, that are driving traffic to a website. So this is the last week here, and this is one of the more basic reports in Google Analytics, but I think provides some great insight into where your traffic is coming from. So these are the kind of 5 main sources and mediums in Google Analytics. We have none, which is direct, users coming directly to your website, going to Bytes.co in their browser. CPC, which is paid, that's Google ads for us. We run some ads, I think, for all 3 of our service lines. Organic, that's people coming in through Google search results. We're showing up if you search digital marketing Burlington, Vermont. Somebody comes in through our organic search listing, that would be classified as organic here. Referral is a link from another website. So if we're on like the Lake Champlain Regional Chamber of Commerce's website, somebody clicks over from their site onto ours, that would be classified as referral. And then email obviously comes through an email link. And there's a ton of great reports in here that we'll kind of get in tomorrow. You can also see your overtime in the real time report for who's on the website. So I think if we give it a refresh here, it should pop up right now. It might not, because I'm logged into WordPress. Yep, there you go. So, in the real-time report, we can see that there's a user on the site who's on the home page, which is exactly what we got here. I'm on the home page. Kind of gives you a region of where they're coming from, Burlington. And you can kind of see what they do as they go throughout the website. So that's kind of the basic tracking of what analytics allows you to see. Everything about a user on the website and what they're doing on the website, except for kind of, personal information like IP address, name, email, phone number. That's all stuff that Google scrubs out. It's more just kind of the data points of a user rather than the personal information of a user.
Cool. How about these? Let's just run through these tabs real quick. Kind of real time.
Yep.
Locations, traffic sources. What's under the content tab there?
Yeah,
I guess let's get out of real time maybe, because we only have one person here.
Yeah, so I think where I usually am the most is under the acquisition section. The acquisition reporting is kind of all about where users are coming from and how they're getting to your website. So we have the overview report, which just kind of creates a nice little dashboard here of your top channels, your users per date, your conversions if you have goal conversions set up. And again, that kind of same medium report that we were looking at here, direct paid search. All traffic is great as well. That's where we were just prior. We were looking at the source medium report. Channels does kind of the same thing here. Kind of groups your acquisition into default channel groupings, which are those same kind of big 5 to 6 that we chatted about before. Tree maps. There's definitely a number of reports in here that I don't use on a daily basis, but you can kind of dig into tree paths. Or tree maps is a way of kind of breaking out those big 5 source mediums that we have to kind of look at how users are interacting with the site. Referrals is a great report. That is a list of sites that users came to, navigated through a link on that website to your site. So you can see here of our 71 sessions over the last 30 days, over the last week from referral traffic. Most of that was coming from Facebook. That's good to see. That's running Bytes with Bytes. Hopefully we're adding links to these posts, and that seems to be driving traffic. We also have, in a lot of our websites that we build here at Bytes, we do put a link in the footer of web design by Bytes. So we would normally see a good amount of traffic coming in from websites we've built. It's furniture here is a good example. We have LinkedIn is here is another one of our social platforms.
And you can always expect to see random sites in here too, because there's always people that are just doing God knows what linking to your website. But this is kind of a good place to just keep an eye on things and make sure the majority of your traffic isn't coming from, alternativeveto.net, because we have no idea what that is.
Spammy websites for sure.
Sure.
The Google Ads tab under acquisition, if you have Google Ads linked up, provides you some great insights into how your campaigns are performing, how your keywords are performing, which queries are driving Google Ads results, hours of the day which are driving the most Google Ads traffic and conversions. It will kind of do a breakdown for display targeting, video campaigns, shopping campaigns, Search Console, which we'll kind of get into a little bit more. If you have Search Console set up and linked, you can actually see, the queries that are driving searches to your website. So if somebody's searching for getting more traffic via digital marketing, Burlington, Vermont, versus web design, Burlington, Vermont, that might mean that we have to do some further optimizations on our web design page. Social tries to classify all of those social websites like Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter into kind of one nice section, because that is normally a pretty high. Those social websites are usually a pretty high driver of traffic on really any website if you have your social profiles out there with links back to your website. And then campaigns, if you're using any UTM tags and you're tagging campaign names, those will all show up here. So you can see your campaigns, how they break down for email campaigns versus Google Ads campaigns versus even print campaigns if you have UTM codes or redirects passing through UTM codes. And then the behavior section is all about on-site behavior, whereas acquisition is about kind of like pre-site behavior, how they're getting to your website. The behavior report looks at like behavior flow through the website, where people are dropping off on specific pages. Site content is all about the pages that people are interacting with, how long they're interacting. So here we can see, I think Pete went over this in a Bytes with Bytes last week, but digital marketing is our top page here in terms of page views on the site over the last week. We're also seeing a solid amount of traffic to people looking at our team, website design and development, companies and careers. One thing that jumps out to me here in the top 10 is that we're not seeing hosting and support in the top 10 here, which is, one of our 3 core service offerings here at Bytes. So it's definitely interesting to see, the Google Ads targets, Google Ads blog post above hosting and support. Same with companies and careers, kind of shows what people are, interested in looking at on your website. And then the conversions tab, if you have conversions set up, which we'll get into tomorrow, is a great way to kind of determine, how people are interacting with your website. Are they calling you? Are they submitting forms? Are they live chatting? And kind of your return on investment from any campaigns you're running and, kind of what you're getting from your website in general.
So if you go up to the acquisition and all traffic again.
Yep.
That was a nice colorful graph, I think, on this page.
Channels. I think overview.
Yep. There you go. So I'm just going to back out for a minute. You got it last 30 days. Can you compare it to last year too?
Yep. Yeah. So we could even do, the great thing about analytics is they have all of these great, custom filters in here. You can also do select dates and, do previous years. So here we compare, March of this year to March of last year and kind of see how, maybe the coronavirus is impacting our kind of data here.
Right. So you can see here that, all right. So at a glance, we go down these bar graphs down at the bottom. You can see that overall our traffic appears to be We have much lower direct sessions or last year from this year. So we've somehow managed to grow our traffic, it looks like.
Yep, up
Paid search is way up.
18%.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that looks like to be the biggest driving factor behind our growth in traffic, is paid search. That's a 482% increase in users. Great to see direct kind of maintaining their referral traffic is definitely down. But this is a great way for Pete to jump in right now and say, great that our sessions are up 18%, but that is being driven from Google Ads, which means we're obviously paying for that traffic, which last year we were, probably not paying for as much of the traffic that we were getting, although it was lower.
Yeah, and this has me kind of thinking, what should we be doing different about our Bytes with Bytes? Because we have this, revolutionary new Facebook Live series, and somehow our social media traffic is down 30%. So, maybe what we should be doing is making sure we're getting some links on each one of the episodes to relevant pages, and really trying to do a better job of tracking social media traffic, if there is any. See, there's a whopping 2 people watching us right now, so maybe there's just not a ton of activity coming from it. And then too, look how small the email newsletters are in terms of traffic. I mean, this really tells me that we should probably send out some email newsletters, at least, get the numbers on the board there. Because if you look at the behavior side of things, newsletters have a higher bounce rate.
Yeah, we can look at pages per session. I always find that a pretty interesting metric. How many pages people are looking at within their session on the website. So, and these can all be broken down in the behavior report as well. And under all traffic, we can see, bounce rate on direct versus bounce rate on paid search. So these are just some kind of small instances of, examples of what you can start to kind of from a high level get into in Google Analytics.
Cool. Let's take a look at Search Console.
Yep. Yeah. So over on the Search Console side of things, so this is the main kind of interface, the main hub for Search Console here. They did just roll out, well, not just, but within the last, I think 6 to 12 months, they rolled out this new interface. So if you haven't been in Search Console recently, it's going to be a new interface, or if you've never been in Search Console, you don't really have to worry about it, but it'll be a new interface that could be, a little confusing. It definitely took a little time to get used to. But what Search Console allows you to do is gather more data and kind of more insights onto how your website is appearing on Google search. So here, just from a top level overview here, we can see our total web clicks from Google Search Console here. One of the kind of key areas that I really like to kind of dive into in Search Console is the performance report here. If it does want to load. It basically, I think, which is really the most useful aspect of Search Console, is you can see the queries that are driving both impressions and clicks on your website. So, for instance, you'll probably see a lot of branded terms in here. Burlington Bytes, pretty interesting to see that the last 3 months we're still getting 494 impressions on Burlington Bytes, because hasn't been our brand name for probably almost a year and a half now. Bytes Burlington and Bytes.co rounding out the top 3. Those are all branded terms. Makes sense. Bytes.co is always going to rank very well for Bytes Burlington, Burlington Bytes, Bytes.co. But it does look like some of these other terms we're showing here for are based on a blog post we created about a switch to Google Ads location targeting settings. So Google Ads changed their settings to focused around this kind of call out for people in or regularly in your targeted locations, which another strategist in our department, Randy, did a great job of creating a blog post for, which seems to be ranking very well, as we're seeing clicks and impressions on that term here in Search Console. And then Peter Jewett here in the top 10 as well. Bytes.co ranking pretty well for Peter Jewett. I'm sure that's probably his personal page on our team section. But it gives you a great example of what you're ranking for, how people are interacting with what you're ranking for, and kind of what we can do to maybe improve upon that. Interesting here, great to see web design Vermont is our top driver of impressions in these keywords we're looking at right now. But that only resulted in 5 clicks, which is a pretty low click-through rate. 5 clicks out of 874 impressions. So that maybe tells us that our meta title or our meta description or what's basically facing the user when they search web design Vermont and see a Bytes.co search result. Maybe we can optimize that a little bit better, make it a little more readable, or maybe put a call to action in there to increase our click-through rate. And they also in here Search Console, some of the other great tools in Search Console, and one thing that you always want to do when you set up your Search Console is submit your sitemap. The Google algorithms, the Google spiders and crawlers are definitely, they know what they're doing. But this is the one place that Google outlines for you to come in, and if you have a sitemap, which you should, to enter the URL of your sitemap. So that basically, is putting a flag up to Google saying, here's our sitemap. This is updated, features all of the current pages within our, site. This is what we want you to crawl, and this is what should be utilized for kind of indexing purposes. So it's a great way.
If people don't know at home, every site has, most sites should have a sitemap.index or a sitemap index. It's an XML file. Scott, will you pull up ours so someone can see what it looks like?
Yep. Yeah. So if we gotta take the URL here.
So what the sitemap is, it's an XML file. It's a list of links that basically shows all the pages that are on your website. And so ours is broken down by post type. And so we have within our sitemap a bunch of kind of children's sitemaps. And so what happens is when you add or delete different pages on your website, those pages, let's say you write a blog post, it'll create a new page in the sitemap. In our case, it would be under post sitemap.xml. So let's click on that top one, Scott. So this is a list of all the blog posts on our site. As we add them, it gets added to the sitemap, and then Google is always monitoring this sitemap, so they'll detect a change to the sitemap, and then they'll know we have a new page they should come and take a look at. And the same with if we go back one more, and you see the attachment sitemap 1. So this is a sitemap of all kind of the files that we have on our site. So images, PDFs, stuff like that get uploaded through the back end. So this might be an area that if we wanted to go through and hide some of this stuff, if we didn't want this to be searchable, that we might consider blocking this or removing it from the sitemap so that Google didn't know it was there. So the sitemap is just a tool. Before sitemaps, or if you don't have a sitemap, Google will still be able to crawl your site, provided your robots.txt allows it to. Google's bots will come and they'll just manually crawl through your site and look for links and look for new pages. And even with a sitemap, they're still going to do that, but this gives some structure so that Google knows exactly what it should be finding on your website, and it can make sure all these pages are there and make sure they're all in the relevant spot in the Google search results.
Yep. Yeah, it's kind of like a table of contents almost. Yeah, and it is. Google does recommend that you have a sitemap and that you do submit it to Google Search Console. And Google doesn't give you much insight into the algorithms and organic rankings. So if there are items that they tell you to do, you should do them for sure. So setting up a sitemap and submitting it to Google Search Console, kind of one of the more basic kind of steps in SEO that any webmaster or really anybody with a website should take.
If you have a website, if you don't know if you have it, try to just put a /sitemap.xml after your domain name up in the address bar, and then sometimes it's called sitemap_index.xml. Sometimes it's called sitemap-index.xml, or you can just look up if you're on a CMS like Magento or Shopify or BigCommerce, look up BigCommerce sitemap location on Google, and that should give you the default URLs. So any kind of modern website platform that's not just a bunch of files in a folder, it should already have a sitemap built into it. So you just have to grab that URL and give it to Google.
Yep. Yeah, and kind of wrapping up here, I did want to kind of just outline how to quickly, get Google Analytics on your website,
Right.
Set up Google Search Console. So if you are unfamiliar with Google Analytics, it's just analytics.google.com. Once you're there, you can kind of follow the steps. Google, if you have not set up a Google Analytics account, Google will walk you through it pretty easy. If you have access to a Google Analytics account, it'll basically give you this kind of overview here. And the easiest way to create a new account is to come to admin, the little gear in the bottom left, and click create an account. That'll give you a couple steps to walk through, and it'll basically end you on the tracking information here. So how Google Analytics works is through what they call a global site tag. So again, that's under admin, under the property column, tracking info, tracking code. And this can be seen at any time. So here's our tracking code, for instance. This is what's live on our website. You just have to put it in the header section of every page on your website, which we use. There's a great plugin that we use. If you don't have a developer and you're not, dev savvy, there's a great plugin for WordPress called Insert Headers and Footers that'll get the job done. If you have a developer, they should definitely know how to do this. And once that's live on the site, you can basically test it by coming in here, going on the website while you have the real-time report open. And if you see, yourself, clicking around, here we are on website design and development. If we go to portfolio, in theory, it should track us over to portfolio. And it doesn't look like it's picking up our session anymore because it's getting somebody from Lexington. But here we go. So here you can see it's live on the website. If you have a developer, they should be able to figure it out. If not, there's plenty of YouTube articles. Google Analytics has a great support documentation on it. And it's probably one of the easiest things that you can do to get, very actionable insights and data on your website. Goal tracking is a whole nother piece that we probably will have another Bytes with Bytes on, but this is a great way to get, yourself set up. And one tip for when you're setting up Google Analytics here, I always recommend coming into the demographics section, which lives under audience. And once you click in overview, you actually have to enable demographic information collection. It's not on by default, just because of compliance issues. So if you want to collect data on the average age and gender of people using your website, just click into demographics, and they'll have a button here that you can just click enable, and that'll start to collect data. Sometimes we find that we have clients coming on that haven't enabled demographic reporting, and it's just kind of loss of valuable data for however long they had analytics on the site and didn't have it enabled. But that's
and a good thing too, if you have a website and it's been online for 5 years or whatever, take a look before you try to set up a new Google Analytics account. You can go into the page source of your website, and then I always like to do just a search for, do a Control F and look for UA dash.
We could go back and you can take your exact code right here. So if we take our tracking code, and we take this here, UA dash would work too. If we do a Command F in here.
Well, I'm saying if they don't know what their account is, always try to maintain your Google Analytics account. So if it's possible, if you look at your page source and you see that there is a Google Analytics script in it, then what you want to do is try to work through the process of claiming access to that Google Analytics account, because if you delete that script and you set up with a whole new one, you're going to be back to square one with your data. So whenever you can try to get access to the historic script that's been on your site, it means you're going to have all the historic access, historic data for your site. So check first before diving into this. We have some ways we can help as well if you're wondering, who has control of your Google Analytics account. Maybe it's a past employee or a past web developer. So wherever possible, try to check to see if it's on the site, and if possible, maintain that same GA code so that you can keep the historic data.
Yeah, for sure. And Google actually has a great tool for Chrome called the Google Tag Assistant. It's in the Chrome Web Store that you can throw on your browser, and you can actually run a test to just see what Google Analytics code is on the website, and if it's on there, fine. So here you can see we have our code 3999-12. So that's a great way, quick and easy to get your code. And if not, if you don't have access to it, somebody out there does. So a developer that you previously worked with, a company that set up your account. So that's kind of the quick and dirty 3-minute rundown on how to get Google Analytics on your website. Just to wrap up with Search Console here, kind of a similar process. You go to search.google.com, and once you're in here, on the top left, you'll see any properties that you have access to. To add a new property, you click Add a New Property, and then you want to take your current URL version, which if you copy it from your browser, it'll grab that. So you can see ours is HTTPS, which is secure. We're not using HTTP here. And then we have the non-www version set as our primary kind of domain here.
Okay.
So you would want to go in, continue, and then if you actually have, here it's auto verifying for me. If you have access to Google Analytics, if you have Google Analytics set up on your website, in the profile that you're trying to set up Search Console through has admin level access to your Google Analytics account, it'll actually auto verify for you. So here, Digital at Bytes.co has access to our Bytes.co Google Analytics account, so it would easily verify in here in Search Console. Pretty easy to set up. So usually the process is, set up Google Analytics, set up Google Search Console, and then go into Google Analytics, and under your property settings here, go to all products for linking, and then link Google Search Console and Google Analytics. And that will work to pass that query data, landing page data from Google Search Console into Google Analytics, and give you kind of like some nice clean reports on it.
All right. Well, awesome, Scott. You're going to be back on tomorrow with the advanced Google Analytics. So
yeah. So we could kind of talk about Tag Manager, goal tracking, some ways that we can kind of dive in and use some of the reports that we have here to kind of get some further insights into your website.
Yeah, so pretty much everything we showed you today is just basics right out of the box what Google Analytics can do, and then so anyone can do this. It's like I said, it should take you 10 minutes to an hour to get it onto your site and start tracking data. And then what we're going to get into tomorrow is kind of the different pieces of data and information you can configure around goal tracking and conversion, so that you can really figure out how your business goals are meshing up with what people are doing on the website. So yeah, stay tuned at noon tomorrow, and Scott and I will be back. Got any closing thoughts, Scott?
No, I don't think so. Ready for the jingle again.
Yeah, just got the jingle then. All right. Thanks, Scott. Later.
Bye, guys.
Your website could be better, let's make it right. Together with Bytes with...
Oh! Blew it.